I think consumers are ready for change now more than ever before. And if you look back at the past 10 years and your personal experience in traffic, there will hardly be anyone that said driving a car has never been so much fun as now. Quite the contrary, it's getting worse and worse. The traffic collapse is imminent in countries of the third world, of the second world, and the complaints are reaching us in our big cities here. So nobody puts much faith in traditional ways of tackling that problem. Adding more lanes to cope with more cars, adding additional parking space. Where should that come from? That's not what we want. So people are slowly but surely coming around to thinking that no, this is not the way forward. We need different solutions. We need to eliminate traffic from the space that we have and use our place better. So I believe people are much more ready for change now than they were ever before. I think it's a slow process. It will take quite a lot of time. But then, we're already on the way to getting there. If you buy a new car today, a modern car, it will offer you all kinds of assistance programs like lane assist that will keep the car steady, even with you pulling on the wheel and correcting your destination, right? So give that 2, 3, 4 more years of further growing and developing assistance systems, and people behind the wheel will realize that I don't need to drive anymore. My car is good enough to do that, so I don't need to fear the car driving behind me being any worse than this. So that will tremendously help people to cope with this angst and this anxiety of a robotic vehicle sharing traffic with them when they are already sitting in one that is almost there. On the other hand, we will need the legal environment, we will need the let's say, the ethic dilemma solved in order to get autonomous traffic to be, let's say, the mode of transportation. There's still a lot of questions not answered, and what will you do if all of a sudden in a very smoothly running system you get a car from, let's say, a place that doesn't have modern cars yet and it's starting to share traffic with you. It's not connected. It's fully manual. And then obviously you have a conundrum that you can't solve by technology alone. You still need to have rules and you still need to have people reacting to that situation. So in my estimation, it'll be 5 to 10 years before we get to a real world traffic scenario where we have autonomous vehicles ruling roads. But we're getting there. Pilot projects already well underway. At the heart, what we do is trying to make supply chains more transparent and give actors in the supply chains better information to act on and concrete, say, recommendations for actions to take. Because right now supply chains contain a stupendous amount of waste for security buffers in terms of time, in terms of let's say fuel or any other resource that you need, because you don't know how long you will be stuck in traffic until you reach your destination. You might waste half a day of drive time for a driver because the ship hasn't been unloaded yet and the container is not yet on the dock for you to pick up. Right now, most of these processes are still handled manually, even by phone. Worst case, you have to ask. For us, by digitizing that supply chain and making the information more transparent, we can save up to 30% of resources. Ideally, the driver will be informed in advance that the ship has not been handled yet, it's approaching the dock only now, and he can drive a different tour which is more productive, and a different driver will pick up that load that was initially planned for him, instead of him driving there and then standing half a day and then having to overnight and then come back the next day. Nobody's happy with that kind of scenario. We also know that about 30% of the runs going through European roads today are empty runs. So 30% of the volume is air, essentially. If you can find a smart way to make that air visible to people and say, like, there is capacity, here's a half-empty truck, why don't you ship your load in that truck? Everybody wins. You don't need to have the second vehicle run on an equally only half-empty load. Instead, you get one fully loaded truck, which is way more efficient and burns less fuel. So that's where we think we can seriously contribute to a more sustainable and economically friendly future for road transportation as a whole by just eliminating all of those waste factors in the buffers.